In this lesson we will do something a bit more elaborate, and that doesn't necessarily mean complicated, just a little bit more elaborate setup, and we will use some espresso to achieve the desired effect. First, I have to explain what I'm trying to achieve, otherwise it won't make any sense at all. So what I want to achieve here is the Doppler effect. To be more specific, in astronomy, when an object is moving towards you, then it really shifts towards the blue end of the spectrum. Also, if it is traveling from you in another direction, it shifts to the red side of the spectrum. And I'm pretty sure you can relate to that on another level where you're familiar with the Doppler effect when maybe a car passes by you, so then the sound waves are. Let me just demonstrate that quickly, that will be really interesting. So when a car passes like this, let's say that this is you, the sound waves are traveling, let's say the car initial position is this, the sound waves are more stretched and you can hear the lower frequency noise. As it approaches you, so for example here, those sound waves really become compressed and then you can hear that on a higher frequency. I'm pretty sure you are familiar with the effect, and here we will try to recreate something that is very similar but works with the light on an astronomical level. And you can see I'm really trying to cover as much ground as I can with these generic setups to help you get into more graph and technical developing you can do with Sina 4D. This is one really nice setup and probably one of the most complex we will do, so watch carefully. Here we have a sun, which is also a star, Earth, and the orbit. And notice that the orbit is an ellipse shape, just as in real world. And I also have some materials that I prepared, which are fairly simple. And we will start this by solving the very first problem, and that is that I want the Earth to orbit the Sun. So once again, we will gradually build our setup from the most obvious starting point. So I will add a cloner to my Earth and set this mode to object, and I will drop this orbit spline inside. Of course, we just want one Earth. I will enable this smooth rotation and set this to even, so we don't have any problems with this Earth speeding up or slowing down on this spline. And let's set some rate here. Let's try with 10 and hit play. And that is really too fast. Let's try maybe 5, and this is far more acceptable. So let's go back, and I think it's good time to texture this guy. So sun should be sun, and I will apply this earth material to my Earth, and I will just change the projection to spherical, and really doesn't matter since it's upside down. Let's hit play, and this is not really the point of this lesson, but you know what, this will probably bug me later, so I really have to change that. So I will just do a simple hack here, so now it will be all right, and we can continue. So let me just concentrate once again. Okay, so we have our Earth happily orbiting our Sun, but maybe I will also add a time effector for this guy, just for this Earth to also revolves around its own axis. So let's do just that. So time effector, and it's happily revolving, and we could maybe increase this to, let's say, 180, so times 2, and that's actually really good, but maybe in opposite direction, like this. Oh, it's actually fine in 180, so this would be really acceptable. Let me stop this, go back. So we have now all necessary things done as far as the orbiting and the Earth spinning done. Now here comes the fun part, and that is how to create that wave in between the Sun and the Earth. And you're probably guessing we will do that by a tracer. So we load up a tracer. Notice that my cloner is selected, so the cloner will be automatically inside. I'll turn off these trace vertices and we'll drop our Sun also inside. And the reason for it is I want to connect these two guys, and I can access the Earth, which is a clone, only through cloner. So I will set this to immediate of clones, and this will be connect all objects. So now the spline will be traced and created between the Earth and the Sun. And in this case, the Earth is a clone of this cloner object. I really hope this makes sense. So now I have the spline, and that is really good because I can deform the spline. Now let's hit play and see the result, and the things work as expected. So let's go back, and yes, this is a little bit of a problem with the tracer, so it's once again a priority issue. So you see, once I hit this button, the tracer stays until I refresh once again, and we can solve this by putting this tracer to be executed at the end. So let's try now, go back, and it really works as it should. I think it's good time to create a sweep for this guy, because we really want to add a certain material to that wave. So let's create a profile like this, and we should lower this down maybe to even 1. Let's try to, I think that would be maybe 1.5 would be exactly what we need. And now we will deform this tracer. So we will do that with formula effector. So I'm holding the shift key, and the formula effector becomes a child of a tracer. And if I hit play, well, pretty much nothing will happen. And the reason for it is we are not using any of deformation modes. I will just disable this cloner rate, because I don't want to really play catch with this sphere. And in this formula effector, I will enable first the object. So I want to show you some differences. If I hit play now, you see this guy is really not doing what it should do. We want to deform the points of this tracer spline, and of course we don't want to scale anything. And here we should go in Y, so like this. Now this is not exactly the effect I was looking for. And here, what I was saying at the very beginning, that you really have to know Cinema 4D well before tackling MoGraph, is essential. So now, even though we set it everything correctly, this spline is not really deforming properly. And that is because this type of spline is linear without any intermediate points. So if we set this to, let's say, maybe cubic, only subdivided mode will give us what we want. I hope that will be understandable. If you will try something else, maybe adaptive or maybe uniform, this may seem as a good result, but actually it won't be once you increase the strength parameter on formula effector. So now it's working really solid, and maybe we'll just change some values here. So I will double this, so 720. Let's see how that works, and that's really solid. Maybe just this time should be a little bit slower. Let's try something like 70, maybe 79 would be okay. Yes, that is really good. So now we have our spline that acts like a wave, and we will use this to depict that Doppler shift. And I really hope you are still with me, so we'll once again enable this rate option and we'll press play, and that spline, that wave, will happily bounce off from the Earth and from the Sun. So let's add a generic material. Let me stop this, go back, and I'll rename this to Doppler. And for this guy, we will just enable luminance channel and leave it at white. And you will see later why I did that, because I will control this material through Espresso. And now comes the tricky part. This will be probably the hardest part of this lesson, that is dealing with Espresso, how to color this wave according to the distance between Sun and the Earth. Now let's simplify things, and first I will drop everything inside a null. I'll also call this Doppler, and we will add an Espresso tag to it, and just modify this layout a bit so we have a little bit more of a real estate, just like this. This would be good enough. To solve this one, what I had in mind is really quite simple. We have to use and compare the distances. So let's actually doodle that. So we have to compare the distances between the Sun and the Earth, and based on the distance, we should drive the colors into our material, this one. So if it is closer, if the gap is smaller, then the object should receive more of a blue color. If it is in this position, so the gap is wider, then it should receive more of a red color. So it really shifts towards one of these colors. And once again, if you haven't watched volume 3, consider doing so, because I deal with Espresso in depth, and this can be a little bit difficult to follow if you don't have that knowledge from volume 3 or from any other source. So first I will drop a sun in my Espresso window, then I will drop a cloner, because if I want to access this Earth, which is a clone, I have to work with a cloner. So I will extract the object information from my cloner. I will use a motion graphics data node. So if you want to extract anything or any information from the cloner regarding clones, you have to use data node. So I want to access the specific clone, and the specific clone in this case is this index value of the clone. So if you have let's say zillion clones, you can pick the clone with this index value. So in my case, I'm all set by default value. So the first clone is 0, this one, so this Earth, and I want to add a position information. And what I will do now, I will compare the position information from both Earth and the Sun. So in this case of the Sun, I will use a global position. So just to make sure, we are using global coordinates, and we will find that distance with this. Let me just try to load from here, because I believe you would be able to see, calculate distance, because the screen is cut off due to recording, and you see I have two inputs, and I will load position from clone value, in this case the Earth, and global position of the Sun, and I will search for results. So I'm loading a result node. I can also do that with this system operators, but I'm really low on screen space, so I would rather load them with this right-click menu. So let's now find out the distance between two guys, and this distance is now 300 units. I can enable this animation refresh, so if I hit play, these guys will update live. So you can see it really hits 200 on this position, 300 here, so it really works. It's calculating the distance properly. For the second part of the setup, we said that we will drive the color value of this material with other colors. So let's first drop that material in Express. So you can see you can load these guys also like this. And I will find inside material this luminance channel inside Espresso. So I'm extracting exactly the same value. So I'm finding the luminance and I'm extracting the luminance color, which will be driven by other colors. So if I want to use two colors, which are in this case red and blue, then I will load them as a constant. So first, I will load the first constant node, change the data type to color, simply pick a color. In this case, that would be red, and I will copy it and choose a blue color. Now I have to tell somehow this guy, this luminance color, to take information from these guys, and I have to mix those two guys based on something. And let's try like this: Espresso, calculate, mix. It's really a little bit of a problem once you are low on screen real estate, and I will use this mixing factor to mix between those two colors, because you can see it has two inputs, and I will change the data type to color. You have to be aware of this stuff in Espresso because it can really drive you insane. So this is my first color, this is my second, and the mixing factor is in percentage. So if I connect this guy now, it will be completely red because the input 1 corresponds to a 0. If I will play with this, it will gradually become input 2. So that's really cool, but we have to combine these two setups. So here we have a proper distance calculated, and here we are able to mix colors. And if our mix node only accepts percentage in this case, then we have to find a way to convert these values to percentage. So in our case, the maximum distance should be 0% and the minimum distance should be 100%. So we can do that by a range mapper. So I'm loading a range mapper. The screen is cut off, which is really annoying a little bit. So let's connect these guys, and we know from the distance mode that our maximum distance is 300 and our minimum distance here on this position is 200. So that value will output a percentage. So now we will connect output as a mixing factor. So let's give it a shot and hit play and see what happens. So that is actually really, really great. Let me stop this, go back, and I will reset my recording layout like this. And you will be able to see that in a full glory. So now you can see the wave is becoming bluer because it's shorter, and vice versa, it's becoming more red because it is further away from the star. And I hope you really enjoyed this one. This is the insight into really, really advanced technical developing. So let's, without further delay, proceed to our next project.